Alright friends, welcome back. This is video lecture number 7. We're going to continue with social and emotional development in early childhood. In this lecture, I want to talk about gender identity and maybe get into some parenting strategies. So I'm going to take some liberty and assume that we understand the difference between sex and gender. Sex is our body parts. Gender is our expression, right? And so obviously our body parts are going to change with maturity and puberty, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the way people think about themselves and the way they interact with the world. So gender identity it's tied up with the self. Gender identity is the awareness and I keep meaning to keep this at the top, is how I identify, how a child identifies. I've read different accounts of when gender identity is assumed to be fixed, when a child acknowledges or comes to understand that what they are today is what they're going to be tomorrow. And that's what gender constancy is. Gender constancy is the knowledge that the gender I am today at the age of 3 is going to be the gender I am at the age of 5. And my my reluctance to be real absolute about this idea is that we're kind of living in an era of transgender awareness. So I'm just going to talk about what the terms mean. And gender identity is the way I think about myself. Gender constancy is the notion that my gender doesn't change. But then you have gender dysphoria, and gender dysphoria is the term that's given to the disconnect between what my body is and how I think of myself, right? And that's what we mean by gender, about our gender identity. Then there's another term in here that we call cisgender, and cisgender is the notion that my body aligns with my identity. And in our culture, if you have a vagina, the assumed identity or your assumed gender identity is female, as opposed to if my body is in a disconnect, if I feel like I'm in a disconnect from my body. All right. So we got a couple theorists here. We got Freud. As you may remember, Freud, he was the id, the ego, and the superego kind of guy, and he was the one that talks about how we go through these different stages. Freud theorized that this is the stage of what they call the phallic stage. And the phallic stage is the time and his term for this was psychosexual development. This is the stage of psychosexual development when a child takes on the ways of their same-sex parent. So somewhere in these early childhood, a kid realizes that, hey, my body is the same as my dad's body, so I am a boy, and I start taking on the ways of being a boy. Basically, that's it. You have this other fellow, Fiddlesticks. I'm not sure if this is right. I think I double checked it, but it's underlined in red on my screen, who theorized that it's the mother is responsible for the gendered, for the learning and the teaching of gendered behavior. And so it is through the mother's parenting and interaction with the child that a child learns to associate as male or female. My guess is, I don't know much about this theory, but my guess is that the mother will either will promote and encourage or reward certain kinds of behaviors. This then is very similar to the next theory, and that's what learning theory holds, that the way that we learn about our gender and our gender roles is by basically, are we rewarded or punished? And when so the example I use in my other classes is Tommy is outside playing football when his daddy comes home from work, and his daddy goes, hey, Tommy, I'm so proud of you, throw me that football. Tommy has just been rewarded for masculine behavior. The next day, Tommy comes home and he's painting his fingernails, and Tom's dad freaks out, right? Well, Tommy has then learned that there are certain behaviors that he's going to be punished for. And the same thing happens with girls, right? If a girl, I don't know, makes her bed, bakes a cake, and oh, you're such a good girl. She learns that this is how I get rewarded for acting girls. If on the other hand she's criticized for wanting to be masculine, then she learns to internalize that too. So there's so that's basically the gist of learning theory. Some other concepts under learning theory is there's a notion of what we call gender schemas. I need to remember to link that little video up. There's a really great illustration of gender schema is the idea. It's a cognitive concept, and it's a concept that says that children hold like ideals in their head about everything. We have these schemas in our head, and in our head we have a schema for what it means to be a girl. We have a schema of what it means to be a boy. And that children will learn these schematic models for being a girl, and I'm a girl, so I'm going to do this, or I'm a boy, and so this is what's expected of boys, and no, that's a girl thing and that's a boy thing, and I'm a girl, so I don't do boy things, or I'm a boy and I don't do girls. So a schema is like a summary, and children in this age range develop these summaries of what this is very similar to this next idea, these gender stereotypes. And stereotypes are just a fancy way of summarizing or saying there are certain expectations associated with being male or female. Boy, I hope I haven't been talking too fast and this makes some sort of sense. The point really of even talking about gender in this particular section of the class, of this particular chapter, is that this is a stage of life when gender is learned, and then how fixed those concepts, and there are a variety of theories as to how gender is learned. This is a psychology class, so psychologists emphasize brain structures in learning gender. If we were in a sociology class, we would be emphasizing the role of learning. Okay, so let's switch gears a little bit. I am again watching my time. I may go over it a little bit in this one. This slide is about different parenting styles, and I think I'll talk about these first four and then stop. But these first four parenting styles, probably should have numbers here instead of just the way they're different in Brahmins parenting styles, and I should probably type it out so it makes a little bit more sense, is Brahmins parenting styles are based on tensions between, I think I am actually, what we would call demands and responses. And what they theorized is that parenting is different parenting styles are dependent upon, or they vary based on what I expect of my children and what I give my children. So the demands are, do I expect them to be obedient? Do I expect them to do their homework? Do I expect them to be quiet? Do I expect them to get good grades, right? So what are my expectations? And then the responses are, what do I give them? What kind of privileges do I give them? What kind of rewards do I give them? What kind of punishments do I give them? So they all vary to the degree to which we have more expectations on our children, we have more demands, and the degree to which we give our children more. The authoritarian, and I always got to make sure I got that right because the words are so close together. The authoritarian has high demands and low responses. So this is the strict parent. This is the parent that expects you to follow the rules, do what's expected of you, don't talk back, and I'll let you live here, right? So there's not a whole lot. Yeah, that's pretty much it. They have a lot of expectations and not a whole lot of privileges. Then you have, and I'm going to skip down to this one. This one is the one that has high demands and high responses. So this is the parent that expects a lot but gives a lot. I expect you to follow the rules. I expect you to get good homework. I'm going to give you an allowance, and I'm going to give you lots of privilege. I'm going to trust you, but I expect respect. I expect respect, right? So they have high demands and high responses. Then you have the permissive parent, that has low demands and high responses. So this is a parent, doesn't expect anything, not going to check up, I don't care if you get good grades. Sure, you can speak back to me. They give them all the privileges, all the rewards, all the time, all the attention with no expectation. And then the last one's basically nothing, right? So the last parent is not expecting anything and not offering anything. They're just not really giving them much of anything. I'd like to pause here and sort of ask you to think about, what do you think is the best strategy, right? What do you think the research shows has kids that have the highest the most the combination of, say, performance and emotional well-being? Which do you think results in children that are the most emotionally, have the greatest emotional and social well-being? I'm going to pause here for just a couple seconds. Right. It is the authoritative one. It is the parenting style that expects a lot, but also responds. These are the children that grow up to expect things of themselves, but also to maintain some emotional well-being. And I'm going to stop right here before I move on to the next one.